So I don't know if you recall, but a long time ago we were supposed to have this definitive study on, well, oil and gas development. Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? What environmental damage is it doing? I'm still waiting for it. The editor of Western Wire, Michael Sandoval, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be on, John.
All right. So remind me a little bit about the setup for this report, this big report that we've been waiting for.
So the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment was expected to deliver a health risk assessment last summer, and that grew health risk assessment, and that was a product of the 2014-2015 Grand Compromise, Blue Ribbon Task Force, between now Governor Polis, who was then U.S. Congressman, and then Governor John Hickenlooper.
Let me see if my memory serves me right, because this is where Jared put on a fracking ban, not very different from what was on the ballot last year, and then at the last minute pulled it off because Hickenlooper was able to do this compromise, giving us the most restrictive oil and gas regulations in the country. And part of all that compromise was this Blue Ribbon Committee to look at the health impacts.
And part of that resulted in a 2017 report put out by CDPHE that said that there was going to be a further health risk assessment report due in the summer of 2018 that would combine some air monitoring readings and a much longer length study.
So what came out in 2017?
So 2017 was a sort of bibliography that CDPHE put together of other health reports, taking a look at the quality of those health reports.
Did they come out with a conclusion?
The conclusion was that there weren't risks at low concentration levels for health risks for even vulnerable populations. That was the outcome of that 2017 report.
And the anti-fracking crowd was not happy about this.
That they did not seem pleased with the outcome of that report, but ostensibly, the 2018 report, which was due obviously last summer, was supposed to answer some of these questions. And we've been in contact, Western Wire has been in contact with CDPHE over the last almost year now, trying to figure out when that health risk assessment was coming.
When's it coming?
It said originally it was due in the summer. Then it was sometime in the fall, and early this January, when it did not appear last fall, during the whole Proposition 112 battle, we asked again when it was expected, and they estimated that by the end of the first quarter, which would have been March, which would have been right in the middle of the whole Senate SB 181 oil and gas battle, and that didn't happen. And so we asked them again, and we don't know.
All right, so
we don't know the timeline.
We put that into English for people who don't follow acronyms and numbers. So, promised report that was going to say whether or not there's really a big danger environmentally and for health risks didn't come out when they said it was going to come out. It didn't come out in time for the fracking ban fight last year on the ballot initiative. It didn't come out in time for this anti-oil and gas bill, Senate Bill 181, which would have been pretty pivotal, I think, to this whole debate. Are you suspecting that it's being tied up for political reasons?
Well, the ostensible reason that they have given us is that it's still tied up in peer review. But anyone who's familiar with peer review knows that there is a process, there is a timeline. They need to move through that process. And depending on when they submitted it and whether or not there were revisions, it could be somewhere in that peer review process. But the simple fact that we've now had delayed 3 times, and it's still sort of on this indefinite track of it comes out when it comes out is troubling, and we'd like to know where that was. And so we did an open records request to see sort of where it was in terms of when it might be delivered. We don't know. We have no definitive answer at this point.
I'm trying to read between the lines here. It seems like you guys are saying, all right, what's going on here? Is there a political motivation? I want to see the records to find out why this delay has been going on for. How overdue is it?
Summer of 2018 was the estimated date, so we're getting close to summer 2019. So we're about a year into this. Into this delay.
Especially when we're having these massive
We had two big
debates.
battles.
Two massive battles where this would have come through, and you're absolutely right. Peer-reviewed projects have timetables. That's not that difficult.
And some of the supporting materials that the CDPHE spokesman back in January did indicate were part of, or at least informing this report, have been out, and those have come back with the same same conclusions, that they're not finding what folks are supposing are existing in the field. The concentrations are below health levels that indicated by EPA or even more stringent levels elsewhere. In some cases, they're behind background levels. So actually measuring, emissions near an oil and gas site has actually lower than another site located like in downtown Denver, say. So they're actually lower than downtown Denver. So we're probably breathing worse air than the folks are out in the oil and gas fields.
I have no doubt about that. But the point being, all this information, the first cut of this report was not good for the anti-frackers. The things that have been leaked so far have not been good for the anti-frackers.
That would be a good supposition, and one of the reasons why we did actually ask for these documents.
Then let's get to the fun part of the story. So you at Western Wire, let's disclose. Western Wire, I think,
is a project of Western Energy Alliance, and that's a oil and gas trade organization covering the West, not just Colorado, based here in Denver, Colorado.
All right. So you're an evil anti-Earth guy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. So you put in a Freedom of Information Act request. What did you find?
So our open records request actually discovered some emails between folks at Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, the new executive director, Jill Ryan, who's appointed by Governor Polis, and the Air Pollution Control Division director, Gary Kaufman, and they were discussing what was sort of on the agenda in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and ozone for the upcoming year. She just was appointed. It's time to start under a new administration, and they were discussing. She forwarded a list of sort of policy grab bag list of things that her former group that she led. She was director of the Colorado Communities for Climate Action, which is a group of Colorado communities who are interested in climate action. And
let's be a bit more clear. So the head of CDPHE,
executive director,
which is Public Health and Environment.
It's the top medical and health officials for the state.
All right, top medical officials for the state. Is up until she was appointed, was an anti-oil and gas activist.
Part of an organization that definitely was moving in that direction, certainly.
Shocked, I tell you, shocked. All right, so she's doing some information with another person in government. What did you find?
So the list is sort of a wish list of policy points, and one of them is something that actually the Polis administration did take action on just in March. Former Governor Hickenlooper was asking for an extension. Now, we're getting into the weeds. Denver, the Front Range, is in a non-attainment zone for ozone, ground level ozone. It has been for a long time. So Hickenlooper's administration was seeking an extension, saying there's a lot of stuff coming in from out of state, from China, that really affects our ability to control stuff here. We have a hard time because of topography, because we're mountains. Really get in the weeds. So he was asking for an extension.
Let me stop there because I think I'm pretty good at turning this into English.
Sure.
So basically, we've got these federal standards, and on ozone, we have
difficulty meeting them.
We haven't met them. Hickenlooper would go to the feds and say, "Wait a second, it's not our fault that there are forest fires in California. It's not our fault what's going on in China, what's coming over and blowing over on us. Therefore, give us a waiver." And the feds would always give a waiver. It's not anything that Coloradans did.
And so he was pursuing it. The Polis administration said no. And these emails are dated before. These emails are dated at the end of January. Polis administration took action at the end of March. And the top priority policy item on this list that was forwarded by Jill Ryan to her colleagues was don't ask for the extension. Just get rid of the extension, and in fact, try to move up the schedule. So basically, we can be hit with federal implementation standards ahead of time. Hurting our economy and hurting jobs.
So
just to prove a point.
You would think that a governor and his team would want to do everything we can to make sure business goes well in Colorado, that we're not in trouble with the feds, that we're not paying penalties to the feds, that the feds aren't coming in here and over-regulating us. And his previous successor was able to do that. He said, no, even though it's not our fault, even though it's because of forest fires, let's not do the waiver, and let's even move this deadline up so the feds can beat us up more so we can push in our agenda.
Well, and even other states that are aggressive on these issues don't want to be hit with a federal plan. They want to have their own state. They want to do it. They may agree with what the standard is, but they want to do it in their own way. California wants to do it in its own way. Other states want to do it. You don't want to invite the feds in to regulate at this level. When you have the option to say, hey, we'll take care of it.
But this is,
please let us take care of this problem, but let us do it the Colorado way.
This is not the first time that this administration has surrendered Colorado's autonomy to other states and other governments. We've done it now with zero emission and low emission vehicles, and now the governor of California gets to decide what we buy here in Colorado. So instead of coming up with ways for us to do ozone here, this administration you've got the proof now that they just want to go, no, we'll kick it to the feds and let them decide how we should handle it. That is the opposite of what I think Coloradans would want.
Well, and I think the point to the viewers is not that this is just going to be targeted at oil and gas operations. We're talking about hospitals, we're talking about water treatment facilities, we're talking about any of these sources, these emission sources that could be triggered under this much more stringent ozone non-attainment rule if they didn't, not having filed for this waiver. So we're talking about other parts of the economy, other parts of just, Colorado doing business that are going to be hit, not just oil and gas. I think a lot of the focus, especially from environmentalists, is on the oil and gas part of the operations, but a lot of other things are going to be subject to these emissions rules, and I think that's going to be a really big wake-up call once that the feds come down hard on us.
Well, we got about a half a minute here.
Sure.
Do you know of any other state that purposely wants to run afoul of these regulations that have worked?
No, I mean, nobody wants to purposely run afoul of them, and certainly Colorado, given like I said, the mountains where we're at in the country, we are. The EPA said we're not going to meet these. The EPA itself said we're not going to meet these attainment levels simply because of where we're at. We're just, we have a beautiful state, but we have a lot of things that are outside of our control, and California fires, Chinese pollution help contribute to that, and it makes it harder for us to do anything.
Go to westernwire.com.
Westernwire.net.
So, thank you so much. Listen for me on KHOW Radio. Read me in the Denver Post. We'll see you next week.